Good afternoon, world. Carpo here. I'm looking over the wheel. It's February something, 2014. Got to work. It was pouring rain, and now it's sunny. It's one of those moments to embrace. But it got me thinking about being satisfied with the way things are, in the sense that I went through a phase in my life where I was very much tolerant of everything and accepting of everything the way it was. Didn't expect, I figured if something happened, it happened for a reason. And I've generally carried that with me, through the years, that whole idea, because it makes it easier to live. It kind of goes back to people when they're finally asked about their, say, belief systems. They'll often say that it's a lot easier to have something, some sort of a faith or something to hold on to, than it is to just assume everything is just what it is. And I understand that. And that I do have my own way of dealing with life's hardships. We all face life's crazy, trivial moments, which seem so important to us. But the general consensus among people is to be happy with what you have. Be content with what you have, and don't expect, to have more, because that's somehow it's somehow wrong, and I don't agree with that. I do, in a sense, that people should be content with what they have and grateful for what they have. It doesn't mean that they have to be content with that as to say, this is the rest of my life, this is who I am, this is what I am. I think that there's a certain degree of motivation and, excitement that goes with life that allows people to move forward. I've been very involved in listening to these lectures about, like, capitalism, and I'm fascinated with the roots of capitalism and, how it all came to be. And I have very mixed feelings on the system that we have, the monetary system, and the money system ties into what I'm talking about, because when you start to understand the roots of our capitalist society, and the contentment with which people were considered or expected to have with their status and their role, with their class, and over history, this has always been one of those control factors that's used by telling people to be content with what you have and don't expect more, because it's a better way to live, by telling people that it's a lot easier to keep them controlled. So what we have is, in one sense, being content with what you have is used to control people. And on another sense, it's also just a true natural way to live. By looking around, you can see that not everything is balanced. In the animal kingdom, some animals have more than others. Some trees have better nutrients. Some live on hillsides, struggling and hanging on. But while I've got that in my mind, that picture of a tree on a hillside, thousands of feet up and thousands of years old, those trees end up being some of the oldest and longest lived and the most revered trees. The ones that are looked upon as old, and the ones who have endured the hardships have the most character. So you look at the branches, and they're all twisted and scraggly, but they're beautiful. And in the same sense, a person who's endured many hardships is going to have a more beautiful, inner life, a richer inner life, I think. Speaking with people who have had major life events, you can see that many of them have, it's made them a better person. But as far as having or not having, the haves and the have-nots, I'd like to say, ask yourself, what do you really want out of life? Not just what are we told that we want, or what do we tell ourselves that we want or don't want, but rather, what do we really want? you know? I mean, I've sat back and tried to think about it, and I don't know. I really don't know what I want out of life, other than the things that I already have. I'm very happy with my family, my choice of work, um, the place where I grew up, the body which my spirit resides in, the intelligence to which I was bestowed by nature, which is another factor that's involved in all of that. The haves and the have-nots. Some people just have a better capacity to understand and learn, and it makes it kind of unfair to those who don't, because some can have more. But what we visualize is the society of people where everybody wants something, where everybody wants everything. And I think that a lot of folks have this view that everybody wants to get rich, and it's just not the case. I'd say a majority of people think that they would be better off with more money. I would also say that a majority of people would not turn down a lottery ticket winner if they could put themselves in that situation. But I also think a majority of those people would realize in the long run that the happiness is not brought about by money, and the implication of money does not mean happiness. So, I don't know what exactly my life entails or what I personally want to attain in the long run. I don't really have those set boundaries, and I don't think many people do, and this is why I think life becomes such a struggle for some people, is because a person might work their entire life towards having more money, because in a society where money buys the goods that we need to survive, and money is what we use as our barter, intermediate barter system, then money itself is not evil. But all the money in the world is the result, all the real money, the real wealth is in existence due to the labor of past people. So our ancestors worked really hard to build up a world that was livable to live in. And we still don't know exactly. I think one of the hardest things to really understand, and for me anyway, is to really grasp the resources available on the planet. Not the money itself, because money is really nothing. It's just a symbol. But if all the money available, everyone had the money they needed to buy the resources that they needed, are the resources even available to purchase? So what I'm getting at, I guess, is almost the money. The idea of having money is often much better than having it, because let's say a person spends their life working towards that money, and then they have it, and then they say, what now? That'll lead a person to maybe start playing with money, making more and more money. Money becomes the object, you see? And this is where the problem lies. Money itself is not something to work towards. Comfort and the ability for one to have a comfortable life to where they can dedicate time to thinking and living and enjoying, that is what's important. But we get so caught up in the money aspect of it that we think we need to make more and more and more. The fear of not having enough money quickly becomes the fear of losing the money that you do have. I've seen this in smaller situations, little fractal situations. I've had little bits of, periods of my life where I've had a lot of money. Not a lot, but I've made good money, I've never had more than, say, $10,000. That's the most I ever saved up in my life. And it was gone within a month because I ended up having to loan some out for family emergencies and all this, and buying a car and all this stuff. But when I had that $10,000, I thought to myself, why am I not happy to have this? It's because I'm more afraid of spending it. I've hit that 10,000 mark, and I could see it all the way down the line. This is what would continue to happen as you make more and more money. You're afraid of losing. That 10,000 will turn into 50, and then 100, and then 1,000,000, and then you don't want to go below that mark. If you were a millionaire and you got down to, say, a multi-millionaire and you got down to $1 million, you'd start panicking. That's unwarranted fear. One person could live on $1 million for the rest of his life easily. Yes, even today. But if you're living in the American lifestyle, it'd be more like 5-10 million. But the money is not the issue. The issue is the comfort, and everybody wants to know what we're working towards as a whole. So it's easy for us to point the fingers at others and say, you should be working towards this, or you should be doing this, when we don't even know what we want ourselves. I'm speaking from the standpoint of one man. One man, 38 years old, grew up in Portland. All I know is my environment and myself and those who I've met. I can't speak for the world. I can't even speak for those in my own state, let alone my own nation. I visited other parts of the country, and the people are as different as night and day. This is why I have such an issue with folks who say things like Americans are this, or Americans are ignorant, or Americans are that. America is as diverse as anything you can imagine. Don't think of it as a country, think of it as many countries within one land. And, the states operate very differently from one another. And the values that we have out here in the West are different than those on the East Coast. And so I don't know. What I think is a good, content, happy life may not work for others. And that's why it's so hard for us to, I think, really know what it is we want out of life. And it's especially hard when you try to tell your kids what they should want out of life, because you have no idea where they're going to be, what they're going to be, what kind of person they're going to be. But I do think that as a society, we're moving towards that understanding of different personalities, and people will be able to find what works for them, not what they're told to like, and not what they're told is important. Your value system is your own. You have to foster it. You have to feed it. You have to build it up to where it exists and it's your own. You can't just continue to foster someone else's belief system, because you're always going to end up with questions. And the only result, or the only response to a question, is to seek the answer. So the question is, what do we want? What's your answer? Have a good day, everybody.